नमस्कार दर्शक मित्रों। आज मैं कहूंगा कि कुछ संवेदनशील मुद्दे पे और जिसके बारे में शायद हम संवेदना से ही देखते हैं, बुद्धि को कम इस्तेमाल करते हैं, वो तर्क और बुद्धि के दृष्टि से भी आज ये मुद्दा हम देखने वाले हैं। और मुद्दा है बांग्लादेश का। भारत का जहां तक सवाल है, एकाध दशक से हमारी दशा बैठी है। एक एक करके हमारे जो पड़ोसी हैं वो हमसे रूठते चले। नेपाल जैसा देश जो अपने आप को हिंदू राष्ट्र कहलाता है, रात को 12 बजे भी नेपाल को पूछो तो भारत के सपोर्ट में उंगली फेरी कर देता है। नेपाल भी नाराज है। लद्दाख में कुछ पेच फंसा हुआ है। फिर आगे चले तो अरुणाचल की बात तो सुविदित है, इसीलिए मैं उसमें नहीं जाता। म्यांमार में भी कुछ ना कुछ चल रहा है। म्यांमार से भी हमारा तो रिश्ता रहा है, और वैसे भी भारत की भूमि से म्यांमार जुड़ा हुआ है। हमारे बीच में इनफॉर्मल बॉर्डर है, एक दूसरे के वहाँ हाथ लगते हैं, लोग फ्रीली आते जाते हैं, तो चलता रहता है। फिर बांग्लादेश तो आप कहोगे वो तो बच्चा ही हमने पैदा किया। वी वर द इन a midwifery role which created this country in 1971, thanks to the courageous Mrs. Gandhi and equally courageous and swift Field Marshal Manekshaw and Jagjit Singh Arora. फिर आगे के देशों की बात करें, श्रीलंका, वहाँ किसी और वजह से फंसे। ये कई देशों में तो हम कोई हमारे कॉर्पोरेट हाउस की वजह से फंसे हुए। बांग्लादेश में भी वो मसला तो है ही कि इनकी वजह से भी हम कुछ मुश्किल में हैं। और उनकी तो हाल यह है कि इनकी मुश्किल देश की मुश्किल है, क्योंकि वही देश है। तो लक्षद्वीप, मालदीव है, श्रीलंका है, ऑफकोर्स पाकिस्तान। तो पड़ोसियों के साथ हमारे ग्रहमेल कुछ अच्छे नहीं। अभी अभी एक दशक हुआ, ग्रह दिशा में काफी परिवर्तन आया है। और पहले जो मित्र ग्रही जो ग्रह थे, मित्र क्षेत्रीय ग्रह थे, वो अब शत्रु क्षेत्रीय हो गए हैं, और कई बुध ग्रह की तरह न्यूट्रल हो गए। कई जगह पे हमारे उद्योगपति ने भी पंगे खड़े कर रखे। श्रीलंका है, बांग्लादेश है, तो उन्होंने भी कुछ पंगे खड़े कर रहे अपनी कलाबाजी दिखाते हुए। ऑस्ट्रेलिया है, अमेरिका है। ये परिस्थिति में एक और मणिपुर जल रहा है, और मणिपुर का क्या हाल होगा, कब होगा, कैसा होगा, क्यों होगा, किसी को मालूम नहीं। ये मसला अभी कोई अंत तक आता नहीं दिख रहा है, क्योंकि अगर अंत तक आता होता तो हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जरूर वहां जाते, मगर नहीं गए हैं। इसका मतलब है कि उनके भी काबू बाहर की बात है। गृह मंत्री आते जाते रहते हैं, गृह मंत्री का काम है, तो वो जाते हैं, आते हैं, जाते हैं, पता नहीं। एक वहाँ एक दूसरा उदय हुआ है, राहु केतु की तरह एक दूसरे ग्रह का उदय हुआ है, वो है हेमंत बिस्व शर्मा, जिसके बारे में पीएचडी थीसिस लिखी थी भारतीय जनता पार्टी वालों ने, जिनके कुकर्मों की एक पुस्तिका बनाई। और महाकरप्ट है ये सज्जन। ऐसा कुछ मनगढ़ंत आरोप किया होगा, क्योंकि आज अगर वो महाकरप्ट होते तो आज इनके साथ नहीं होते, या तो फिर वॉशिंग मशीन से धुल के अब स्वच्छ हो गए। तो हेमंत बिस्व शर्मा का उपयोग तो झारखंड में भी किया गया था। तो हमारे ग्रह आजकल कुछ टेढ़े चल रहे हैं, इतने टेढ़े चल रहे हैं कि बांग्लादेश की प्रधानमंत्री अपने यहाँ प्रधानमंत्री के शपथ विधि समारोह में आती है, 4 दिन में बाहर हो जाती है। पहले प्रधानमंत्री बन के आती है, गार्ड ऑफ ऑनर लेती है और बाद में शरणार्थी बन के आती है। मालदीव के साथ हमने काफी पंगा लिया, तो मालदीव ने 6 टापू चाइना को दे दिया। उसका सर्वेइंग का जहाज है, सर्वेइंग में कुछ नहीं, वो जासूसी जहाज है, उसको मालदीव में बर्थिंग करने के लिए छूट दे दी। अच्छी बात है। फिर हमारे यहाँ भी आ गए इनके प्रेसिडेंट, हमने भी उनको $300 मिलियन दे दिए, देने चाहिए, व्यवहार है। पर हम कहीं कुछ गलत फहमी में है कि छोटा देश है, यानी अपने राज्य जैसा है, केंद्र शासित देश। हम ये नहीं समझते कि छोटा देश भी देश होता है। केंद्र शासित प्रदेश की हैसियत से हम उसको ट्रीट नहीं कर सकते। तो ये बातें जो है वो हमारे समझ की बाहर की बातें हैं। अब बांग्लादेश में जो हो रहा है वो तो और भी समझ के बाहर की बात है। जिस देश को भारत ने जिसका सर्जन किया, मुजीबुर रहमान को इसके सर्वेसर्वा बनाया, 1 लाख शरणार्थियों को फिर बाद में शिमला संधि के तहत छोड़ दिया। उस तरह इनके जो प्रधानमंत्री जी थे, उनके साथ भी हमारे ताल्लुकात कुछ उतने बुरे नहीं थे, अच्छे रहे। अब वहां भी चेंज हुआ है। वहां वो एक किताब गुजराती में छपी है, वंचितों ना वाणोतर, यानी कि बैंकर ऑफ द पुअर, साहूकार ऑफ द पुअर। वो सज्जन नोबेल पारितोषिक भी जीते, यहाँ सनत भाई मेहता के पास आया करते थे, तो बातें किया करते, काफी विचार विमर्श होता था इनके साथ। वो आज बांग्लादेश के प्रधानमंत्री इसीलिए है क्योंकि अमेरिका के चहेते, प्रेसिडेंट है, सॉरी प्रधानमंत्री नहीं। बाकी बांग्लादेश में कौन राज करता है किसी को पता नहीं। विद्यार्थी करते हैं या शरणार्थी करते हैं या अपहरण करते हैं, कौन करता है तो वो किसी को मालूम नहीं। तो मोहम्मद यूनुस तो अमेरिका की कठपुतली है ऐसा बोला जाता है, और हमें उसमें कोई हर्ज होना नहीं चाहिए। एक बात ऐसी भी कही जाती है कि अमेरिका को तलाश थी प्रशांत महासागर में चीन के जो आवाजाही है, वो आवाजाही के ऊपर एक असर कारक तरीके से निगाहें रहे, और उसी उसमें उन्हें कोई पहले अंडमान निकोबार की ओर उनका ध्यान था, मगर वो फिर कुछ हुआ नहीं। अब इन्होंने बांग्लादेश के पास से शायद सेंट मार्टिन करके इनके जो टापू है, आइलैंड है, उनके लिए करार कर लिया है। फॉर्मल करार अभी तक कहीं बाहर नहीं आया है, मगर सिविलियंस की आवाजाही वो टापुओं पे बंद की गई। तो इससे इंडिकेशन मिलता है कि वहां मिलिट्री बेस बनेगा। तो अब अमेरिका भी बांग्लादेश में एक नया परिबल दाखिल हो गया है। ये सब चीजों के बीच में गुत्थी इतनी उलझी हुई है कि पहली बात तो समझ में आना मुश्किल है, और समझ में आए तो गुत्थी कैसे सुलझाना वो मुश्किल है। समझ में ये बात भी नहीं आती कि जब वहां की प्रधानमंत्री, हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी के 3rd टर्म के शपथ समारोह में आई, तो 4 दिन के बाद उनको वहां से भगाया गया। तो हमारे रॉ वाले करते क्या थे, रॉ जहां भी जाती है अभी रॉ ही हो गई है, रॉ यानी कच्चा। वो अमेरिका में FBI के डबल क्रॉस के साथ फंस जाती है। तो यह भी यही हाल इनका हुआ कि दे वर फाउंड टू बी स्लीपिंग। शायद उन्होंने अगर आगाह किया होता भारत सरकार को तो ये नौबत नहीं आती। ये परिस्थिति में अब बांग्लादेश और भारत के संबंध कैसे रहेंगे, जबकि बांग्लादेश ने अब अभी पाकिस्तान के क्रिएटर थे जिना, उन्होंने एनिवर्सरी भी सेलिब्रेट कर। कहते हैं कि अगर वो नहीं होते तो हम नहीं होते, और अगर हम पाकिस्तान का भाग नहीं होते तो हम भी शायद जम्मू कश्मीर की तरह पापड़ बेलते होते। तो जिना के लिए इन्होंने अपनी ग्रेटिट्यूड प्रकट की। फिर पाकिस्तान से शस्त्र खरीदने का व्यवहार शुरू किया। बांग्लादेश पाकिस्तान के करीब जा रहा है या चला गया है 24 अक्टूबर। उसमें एक रीजन हम जानना चाहेंगे आज की चर्चा में, और क्या अमेरिका भी इसमें सूत्रधार है नहीं। ये सब चीजों को जानने के लिए, बात करने के लिए ऐसे एक्सपर्ट चाहिए, ऐसे निष्णात चाहिए जो पहले तो प्रदेश को जानते हो, लोगों को जानते हो, और जिनकी पैनी निगाहें हमेशा वो कहीं ना कहीं कुछ ना कुछ ढूंढती रहती है। कहते हैं इसके ऊपर आज से काफी पहले, जब किसी को ये आगाह भी नहीं था, तब उन्होंने इसका प्रेडिक्शन किया था कि बांग्लादेश गलत रास्ते पे चला जाए। आज वो सही निकला, ना निकला होता तो अच्छा था। ये है हमारे गुरज्योति भट्टाचार्य साहब। भट्टाचार्य साहब यहाँ वरिष्ठ पत्रकार हैं और देश के, समग्र देश की घटनाओं के बारे में काफी सतर्कता से वो अपनी राय बनाते हैं और रखते हैं। अब अभिव्यक्ति के लिए वो जाने जाते हैं। He doesn't mince words, तो दिल में है वही जवाब में होता है, और जो कहना है बिल्कुल बेझिझक और क्लैरिटी से कहते हैं। तो दर्शक मित्रों, आपके सामने मैं पेश कर रहा हूँ वरिष्ठ पत्रकार गुरज्योति भट्टाचार्य साहब को। हमारे चैनल के लिए नए नहीं है, और फिर कुछ दर्शक नए हो, इसलिए एक मैंने सोचा कि व्यवहार होना चाहिए कि हमारे मेहमान का परिचय छोटा तो छोटा दिया जाए। तो इसे भट्टाचार्य साहब को परिचय के मोहताज नहीं। तो सर जी, हम चर्चा की शुरुआत करेंगे कि ये मसला क्या है। मणिपुर जल रहा है, बांग्लादेश में भी दंगे हो रहे हैं। आज तक नहीं सुना था हिंदू मुस्लिम कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हुआ, जहाँ पूजा के अवसर भी ऐसे ही सेलिब्रेट किए जाते हैं जैसे वेस्ट बंगाल में किए जाते हैं। बांग्लादेश के साथ हमारे ताल्लुकात भी अच्छे रहे, तो हुआ क्या? हमारे संबंधों को, पड़ोसियों के साथ के हमारे संबंधों को किसकी नजर लग गई?
देखिए, बाकी देशों के बाद थोड़ी देर के लिए हम एक किनारे रखते हैं। लेट्स टॉक अबाउट जस्ट बांग्लादेश फॉर द टाइम बीइंग। नाउ बांग्लादेश को अगर हम देखते हैं तो दिस हैज वर्कड ऑन कम्युनल लाइंस सिंस 1975। मुजीबुर रहमान की हत्या के बाद से जो radical fundamentalist forces, they started gaining ground. 1947 के बाद they were active, they were inactive for the period of liberation war, and until Mujib was there. After Mujib they got active again, और वो चलता रहा। So 1947 में जब वहाँ पे हिंदू पॉपुलेशन कुछ 22% था, आज वो आके 7-8% के आसपास आके खड़ा हो गया। तो ये एक हकीकत है। दूसरी तरफ
13 करोड़ लोग हैं मेरे अंदाज से बताइए।
I beg your pardon?
संख्या की दृष्टि से कितने हैं?
It's about 8% of the total population, which would be at least 3-3.5 करोड़ तो होना चाहिए।
3.5-4 करोड़ के करीब
होना चाहिए। Now, if when we are looking at this, आज की जो बांग्लादेश की स्थिति है वो आज की नहीं, वो पिछले 15 साल से ये स्थिति की निर्माण हो रही थी। और वो हमारे नाक के नीचे हो रहा था, उसमें कोई शक नहीं है। और ये जो हुआ है, आई विल बी less than shocked if I'm told that people in the power did know about it. देखिए, पिछले साल दिसंबर में रशियन एम्बेसी प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस करके बोलती है कि भाई अगस्त में ऐसा कुछ होने वाला है. They went on record. And
किसने
that
बोला?
exactly
किसने बोला सर?
रशियन एम्बेसी से ये प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस किया गया था.
जी.
खैर, I mean not Russian embassy, Russian foreign office did that
जी.
in Moscow. So भनक तो उनको भी थी, भनक हमें भी थी. And the reports of India and America making parleys over Bangladesh before the election this January was making rounds all over. So we all were aware that everything was not fine in Bangladesh. तो ये एक स्थिति की निर्माण हो रही थी, ये हमें पता था. ये हो ही नहीं सकता कि हमें ये पता नहीं था. We were not caught off guard. We allowed the situation to precipitate to this level. This is number one. Number two, when we talk about Begum Hasina, I mean, she definitely kept the radical elements under some kind of a moderate leash, but she certainly allowed them to grow, gain grounds and everything. देखिए 2009 में she came to power for the second time. Bangladesh High Court around the same time banned Jamaat-e-Islami, the most violent and virulent form of politics that played out in Bangladesh. Around the same time, हाटहाजारी in चट्टग्राम, हाटहाजारी में आपका खिलाफत इस्लाम की नींव रखी जाती है. But by 2010, Hifazat Islam is established. And they means no word in saying that they'll be pursuing a hardline Islamist ideology in Bangladeshi politics. So ये होता रहा. 2013 में they had this massive demonstration in Dhaka, a place called Shapla Chottor, and 27 people died. 2014 में Begum Hasina goes on and announces that the country would be governed by the Medina Charter and nothing will be against the Islamic laws. And in the case that international laws contradict Islamic laws, that will not be applicable to Bangladesh. She went on record on this. So essentially, she was catering to this group because of its reach, because of its population across the ground, and allowing these fundamentalist forces to grow. Number of liberal thinkers, bloggers, writers were killed, brutally killed during that period. Nothing happened. No action was taken against the murderers. So ये violence जो था, इसको बढ़ावा तो हसीना ने खुद ने दिया है. And now this, I'm talking about a period after 2014. So obviously the powers that be in India were also aware of what was happening, right? After all, this was a friendly country. So it was just not a friendly country. It was one of the, we shared one of the closest relation with that country, right? So it cannot be that we didn't know about it. We certainly knew what was going on there. And we choose to do nothing. Now, why did we choose to do nothing? And I mean, you look at the way things happened, at times it seems almost sinister that Hasina was almost emboldened to pamper to these forces. Now, why did that happen? Because that in turn fed into the so-called Hindutva frenzy here, and it helped the ruling party in its domestic politics. Because हिंदुस्तान हिंदू राष्ट्र अगर आपको बनाना है तो आपको हिंदुओं के बलिदान चाहिए, and you cannot afford it in India. Therefore, you look at the dispensable lower caste working class Hindus in Bangladesh. उनके बलि चढ़ती है, उसकी कीमत पे अगर आप यहाँ पे हिंदू राष्ट्र प्रतिष्ठा कर सकते हैं. That's exactly what you looked at, and that is precisely what is happening today. There was a huge protest in Karimganj yesterday in Assam. People apparently decided to march into Bangladesh to rescue Hindus. Similar things happening in West Bengal, where BJP is desperate to get its foothold. So basically, we are feeding into the frenzy of this. But then comes a question that does India have the moral right to lecture Bangladesh on minority rights? आज ही बांग्लादेश के लॉ अफेयर्स एडवाइजर Asif Nazrul has put out a Facebook post questioning India's stand on this. That what with the track record of minority welfare in India for last 10-15 years, we are not even embarrassed. And we are lecturing them. I mean, so that is a larger question that at some point we need to answer, is that are we morally, ethically in a position to talk about minority rights? This is number one. Then there is a very interesting question that comes up, is that this last June, the Hindus in Myanmar had written to the government of India seeking some kind of support from the persecution by the Myanmar junta. Now, did that make to news? It didn't. We really didn't discuss about it. We are discussing Myanmar today, I mean Bangladesh today, or Myanmar violence yesterday, but we do not discuss Myanmar Hindus. So the narrative is very, very simple. It is only when the Hindus are victims of Muslim violence is when they make a subject for discussion. That is the narrative that is being said. Because Indian government really didn't respond to the Hindus from Myanmar. Now, that brings us to altogether a different question now. Is that one, clearly now that government of India is so openly denouncing what is happening in Bangladesh, and it's so concerned about the plight of the Hindus, at least on paper, we do not see a tangible action on ground in terms of stopping the trades or any kind of a action that would actually hurt the country's interest in terms of restricting trade or any other punitive action. That is not happening. That is number one. Number two, there is a tangible paradigm shift in foreign policy where we are actually actively talking about the internal affairs of another country, and that too on religious lines. So does this mean that the foreign policy of our country is now taking a shift in Southeast Asia, where the pivot of our policy is Hindutva? I think this is a much more serious question that we all need to understand and somewhere address, because this is not how we operated.
मगर फॉरेन पॉलिसी की बात अगर आप करते हैं भट्टाचार्य साहब, तो हमारी फॉरेन पॉलिसी तो फ्लेक्सिबल हमेशा रही है. जब सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक करनी आती है तब फॉरेन पॉलिसी फ्लेक्सिबल है, लद्दाख को बांट दो, फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी है। बांग्लादेश में तो इट वाज ए प्लान इंटरवेंशन, फ्लेक्सिबल है। हमारी फॉरेन पॉलिसी एक से ज्यादा रास्तों पे फ्लेक्सिबल है। चाइना के साथ के आज तक के अभी आप देखो कि चाइना के लिए कोई कभी एक खराब शब्द हमारे विदेश मंत्री ने या भारत सरकार ने बोला है? अब बोलते हैं कि चाइना हट जाएगा, तो उसका मतलब यह था कि वो तो आए तो थे। तो फॉरेन पॉलिसी तो हमारी अगर जो ठीक रही होती, मैं एक दूसरे प्रश्न पे आना
See,
चाहता हूँ, इसलिए कई बार आपको
I'm not
बोल रहा हूँ।
I'm not going to ask this question that whether हमारे foreign policy ठीक है या the quality of it. What I'm saying is that there is a clear paradigm shift that we are now, our foreign policy is also tinged with religiosity. Is the religion of the majority population of the country determining its foreign policy? It can. I do not say it cannot, but then it will have its implications also, because we are at the end of the day exporting a lot of labor to both Muslim and Christian countries. So if my foreign policy is directed by the Hindutva ideology, I can expect a similar transaction from a Muslim country or from a Christian country. So that can happen. This is what I'm trying to underline here. This is number one. Number two, if I'm talking about the Hindu minority rights and Hindu rights, then that is being trampled in Bangladesh is disturbing. But the same thing in Myanmar is not something to be talked about. I mean, how does that work? So there is definitely a contradiction, and that contradiction needs to be understood and addressed.
How would you comment upon the minority rights being criticized about India?
Come again, sir. I didn't get your question. I beg your pardon, sir. If you could repeat it.
I was trying to ask you that similarly, India also is widely criticized for suppressing the minority rights.
I said it at the very, very beginning that the first question is that do we have the ethical or moral strength to talk about minority rights anywhere in the world? Because now, right now it looks like our national pastime is to look for temples under every mosque. Every conceivable mosque seems to have buried one or the other temple under it. So if this is what has become a national pastime, I mean, do we really have any right to talk about minorities anywhere else in the world? We do not see anybody from the political establishment coming out and talking about minorities issues in India. And if this holds true for BJP, I mean, we are not seeing enough reaction from Congress or other oppositions when it comes to other countries. So somewhere,
you are trying to say that the other political parties are either docile or they are having tacit support of what is being done by the ruling party.
they're one, they're docile, and second, they're aimless. There is absolutely no clarity of action or thought.
But right-wing politics world over, if you look at, including the recent elections in United States, it is taking a center stage. Don't you think so?
Of course it is. Of course it is. And this is absolutely a scary situation, because the global environment, if we look at it, both economic and otherwise, it is conducive to the growth of right-wing politics. There is no two way about it. But the point is, it comes with a very, very high cost. And I'm just hoping that we are in a position to pay it, because civilizations never is in a position to pay that kind of a cost that it does. We've seen that in Second World War, as somebody was saying the other day, that we are dealing with the anti-incumbency of the left. But that has come far too soon than we would have wanted it.
But then how would you look at the kind of a tactics followed by Mamata Banerjee?
See, Mamata Banerjee is playing a very opportunistic kind of a role with no ideological commitment to anything whatsoever. I regret to say that, because today she stands in the assembly and asks for UN peacekeeping force in Bangladesh and opening the borders for Bangladeshi Hindus, knowing fully well that the Union government will never do this. And to embarrass the Union government, which is absolutely legit by political standards, but then asking for the UN peacekeeping force by a state chief minister from the assembly, isn't that an absolute over the top reaction?
I think foreign policy is none of the business of the state.
Absolutely.
And she has crossed the boundaries of what has been prescribed for her under the federal system.
Absolutely.
Defense, foreign policy, and currency are three things
she has been absolutely, and she has been going back. She's been doing exactly the same what she accused the center to be doing. And this is all addressing their particular domestic constituencies. But each sentence uttered by a public figure has its implications internationally. Because the moment Banerjee said this, people from Bangladesh started reacting on it.
True. But then, this mess, if I look at it in a very different manner. Bangladesh, then northeastern states, Seven Sisters, vis-a-vis Manipur, then you are accusing that Jharkhand is being flooded by the infiltrate from Bangladesh. Is there something wrong and very complex with these जो पूर्वांचल के राज्य हैं बांग्लादेश समेत?
I mean, forget Jharkhand for a moment. There are allegations of huge number of Bangladeshi settlers in Ahmedabad itself, right? Now, again, now this is a very simple question. That what does a state government have to do with foreign infiltration? This is supposed to be the responsibility of the central government and central intelligence agencies and the security agencies. Now, where is the public tax money going to? Who are getting paid in the name of security agencies? Who are these people? And what are they actually doing? Because if they were working, I believe that
this discussion can go on. But this discussion can go on and on. I want to, for a change, looking to the time constraint, change the track. How do you look at the alleged US interest in Bangladesh, and what does it mean for India?
There's absolute clear US involvement in Bangladesh. There is just no two way about it. Muhammad Yunus has been very close to the US establishment all along. Now we have a range of evidences that kind of makes it clear how close and how deeply entrenched he is in the US system, and how deeply US is invested in him. In 2013 or 14, if I either of the 2 years. He was in Calcutta, where in US consulate, where he actually said that he wants to join public life and head the country at some point in life. Consulate very, very diligently reports it back to Washington. So all these have been there. His proximity to Clinton's is very, very clearly known. So bringing him out of nowhere to head the country, who had no experience in any institutional experience other than setting up the Grameen Bank, which again is mired into so many controversies and allegations, including that of trafficking and torture. Bringing him up as somebody to head a state clearly underscores the role of United States in the whole thing. So there is no two way about it. There is similarly, there is no two way about the alien hands playing a very, very strong role in disturbing the Northeast. Absolutely. I mean, I don't see a reason why you should even ask this question. It's there. We know it. Having said this, what have we done? We were supposed to be, in last 10 years, we become the Vishwa Guru and whatever, but what have we achieved? The problem is with us.
Do you think Raw has failed in performing
Raw has had its greatest failure in Mujib's murder. Then it has failed in protecting democracy in Bangladesh. If we keep on saying that we birthed that country, then we birthed it and left it at the nature's mercy to grow up, because our agencies didn't seem to do anything about it. And then we saw all of it, the rise of Hifazat to the murder of free thinkers and atrocities on Hindus in 2021 and Hasina's ouster. I mean, I don't see Raw doing anything apart from the fact that we being a witness to the whole thing. So yes, I mean, it's nice to know that we have an intelligence agency that is supposed to be working.
But then that agency has messed up in Canada, that agency has messed up in United States.
Well,
and
we are
it
still
might have messed up elsewhere. These are some of the known examples, but this agency might have messed up elsewhere as well.
But we are still paying salaries for them.
I don't know for why, but yes.
But then we are.
They are under double protection. The problem lies, according to me, with the National Security Advisor to start with.
Well, the buck has to stop somewhere, but buck has to stop somewhere. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, what are the priorities? Probably you or me, we do not really understand the priorities of the nation.
But priorities were certainly not that Bangladesh Prime Minister comes here for the vote-taking ceremony of our Prime Minister, and then within a week she was ousted from her seat. That cannot be the priority. On the contrary, it could have been our moral responsibility to see that such thing doesn't happen. तो इस संदर्भ में मैं आपसे पूछ रहा हूँ कि ये रिसर्च एंड एनालिसिस विंग किस चीज की एनालिसिस कर रही थी या किस चीज की रिसर्च कर रही थी?
Given the kind of world order that we are in today and the kind of challenges that we are facing, this is a question that even I would ask.
Like what?
As
what
in
change of world order?
If some of the top guys of the largest democracy of the world cannot travel to the oldest democracy, what does it say? What does it say?
That is failure of the diplomacy. I would say that anything beyond. I won't say anything beyond that.
So what
You
does
need
that
US
say?
as much they need you. That should have been the
What does that
reason.
say? And
And especially when the Prime Minister of this country claims that he was very close to Barack Obama, so that he can
so,
address him as Barack.
so
He was very
certainly,
close to Donald Trump, so he said, "Abki baar Trump sarkar," and Namaste Trump.
so what does that say
Biden,
about us?
I don't think he was that. He has ever openly claimed, My friend Biden or my dear friend Biden," for whatever were the reasons those be. Again, he has tweeted, and then in response to that tweet, "My dear friend, congratulations on your thunderous victory." The fellow has hit back with that you keep away from this BRICS currency, or else I'll clamp 100% sanctions on you, and it will be difficult for you to survive
So
and come and challenge me.
that's exactly how it is. So given this situation, I would wonder what our intelligence agencies are doing anyways. And why is Indian taxpayers' money is being wasted on them?
The Indian taxpayers' money are meant for being wasted. They are being wasted on so many things, including two very luxurious planes, one for the Prime Minister and the other for the President. Wherein President and Prime Minister, if at all, normally they don't travel together, but if at all it was required and it was a must for some unitary or some exceptional occasion, तो वो दोनों में इतने तो खराब रिश्ते नहीं है कि एक साथ ट्रैवल नहीं कर सकते कि आपको प्रेसिडेंट के लिए अलग प्लेन चाहिए दिस पुअर कंट्री can it afford about 8,500 crore plus interiors? That is 10,000 crore each. आप पब्लिक मनी की बात कहाँ करते हो? टैक्स पेयर्स मनी की बात कहाँ करते हो?
That says it all. Says it all. I mean, our intelligence agencies, all that we are seeing doesn't say anything good about it so far, except maybe somebody or the other would be snooping around some poor journalists or some poor political leaders' phone to figure out what they are
Some
talking
of the
about.
journalists are not poor now. There may be few. You may say you may be talking about few poor journalists. Other journalists also made great kills. Look at, I don't want to name anybody because हमाम में सब दंगे है जैसा हाल है मगर जर्नलिस्ट अभी गरीब रहे हैं ये बात में तो कोई दम नहीं है उनके मालिकों की तरह वो भी दमदार हो गए
हैं
मगर again coming back to the same question of it, you have not answered me adequately. What is the interest of United States in Bangladesh? उन्हें क्या वहाँ तकलीफ क्या वहाँ क्यों इंटरेस्ट है बांग्लादेश और उनके वो इंटरेस्ट मटेरियलाइज होने से भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार है तब तक तो ठीक है मगर इंडिया तो रहेगा भारत को क्या इससे फायदा नुकसान है
See, there's clear thing that one, Bangladesh's existence has always been a slap on America's face because Mrs. Gandhi could just snatch it away from them.
Yes.
So this has been the country's existence has been a clear slap on America's face that it lost to a lady who not only walked out of Nixon's clutches and made sure this happened, and they could do nothing about it. That's number one. Number two is that they are desperate to have a toehold in the Bay of Bengal in the view of rising power of China. So they have been trying it in Myanmar, but that is taking time, and Myanmar has been fairly unpredictable. Further down, America never had very good experiences. They've been slapped around quite a bit. So Saint Martin in Bangladesh happens to be one of the key areas where they've been eyeing very keenly for very long time. And with a stooge like Yunus, this was all possible. So this has been one of the interests.
So they want
And
to establish their presence so as to keep an effective eye on China's movements
absolutely,
in the domestic.
not only an eye, but a very, very strong naval deterrent that they're looking at. This is what one tends to guess.
इसका मतलब भारत के लिए क्या होगा?
Bharat ke, whatever is happening in Bangladesh will do a few things. One, a restive Bangladesh will keep the northeast pot boiling for a very long time. That is number one. Number two, the rise of fundamentalist Islamist ideology in Bangladesh will keep on fueling the Hindutva guys here. So we shall have a competition of who's better, who's stronger. So that will keep on happening domestically. So we shall see more street violence on both the sides of the border, and internationally we shall have more restrictions on Bay of Bengal that we do not want. We shall have more interference into our business from both Bangladesh and
देखिए आप ये बात तो कर नहीं सकते, मालदीव में चाइना है, and in the name of surveyship, they are surveying your Sriharikota and rocket launching sites.
so absolutely the same thing will happen from St. Martin, and we shall have to live with it.
Achha, do you think that America's presence in St. Martin could be a sort of some kind of a restriction or some kind of a dampener on China's intentions of attacking India or creating some sort of a localized war situation?
So let's understand one thing, that nobody wants to fight their own dirty war on their own land. So if a dirty war plays out, it will play out on the Bay of Bengal, it will play out around India, between India and China. Neither of the country has got anything to lose. All that we have, the people who would lose are the people of India and Bangladesh. So who cares?
But that इससे ये शक्यताएं उभरी है.
ये जरूर ये संभावनाएं उभर कर आ रही है.
संभावनाओं से हम इनकार नहीं कर सकते.
बिल्कुल नहीं कर सकते, बिल्कुल ही नहीं कर सकते.
अच्छा, आप ये सोचते हैं कि आपने फंडामेंटलिस्ट इस्लामिक फोर्सेस विल राइज बिकम स्ट्रॉन्गर वगैरह वगैरह बातें की. आने वाले समय में क्या आप ये सोच सकते हैं कि पाकिस्तान एंड बांग्लादेश विल be hand in gloves or come very close to each other?
See, they'll profess love for each other at a very, very strongly. But coming close is now difficult for both the countries because neither their economy nor their muscle would support a proximity. Because at the end of the day, they have to surmount India. And that's not a very small country. So no matter how much love they have for each other, it's not going to really fructify into a strong physical brotherly bond. That is not, I don't see that happening. Until and unless either China...
in a conflict type situation, अगर भारत और पाकिस्तान के बीच में कोई कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हो जाती है, कोई संघर्ष हो जाता है, तो आप पहले ऐसा था कि इस पाकिस्तान की ओर से भी कहीं ना कहीं कुछ भारत के लिए उस बॉर्डर के ऊपर कोई तकलीफ होती. अब वो होने की संभावनाएं आप नहीं देख रहे हैं?
Seriously, I don't foresee any danger from Bangladesh, not because of their intent, but because of their capability. I do not foresee them creating that kind of a military challenge there. But that will be a security threat unquestionably, because we will see a lot of nurturing and launching of terrorists But if that happens, it's just not India that will pay. A lot of other people will also pay the price of it. So
तो आज की तारीख में जो परिस्थिति है, बांग्लादेश इज इन टर्मोइल. मोहम्मद यूनुस कब तक रहेगा?
until and unless dice's role completely in US's favor formally, or a civil war breaks out.
In Bangladesh,
Yes, in Bangladesh.
you see a possibility of civil war breaking out in Bangladesh?
Not immediately, but over some time, I will not rule out a possibility.
क्या उसके लिए प्रोवोकेशन क्या हो सकता है?
See, the way I understand Bangladesh or that part of the country, that part of the subcontinent, it is also a thinking land. It's just not, it won't flow with the fundamentalism for far too long. At some point or the other, either it, because there is already some kind of resistance coming from the middle class or a huge chunk of population when Yunus said that he has pressed the reset button on history. Because the Bangladesh, the idea of Bangladesh, as we understand, is forged on ethnicity and culture and not on religion. So there is this inherent clash of language and religion that basically failed.
Yeah, are they anyway more closer to West Bengal in terms of culture and ethnicity?
Obviously, I mean, it's the same ethnicity and culture, but the only thing is that the really hyper religiosity that we are seeing, that will push a large chunk of the people to the brink very sooner or later, and that is when I expect some kind of a confrontation. And if that happens, then things, then it'll, I mean, it will take a very, very different turn. So yes, I do foresee a possibility of a confrontation, but not immediately. That will take a while. That will take a while.
See, बांग्लादेश ने काफी अर्थव्यवस्था के क्षेत्र में काफी प्रगति देखी है. वहां तक कि इनकी जो पर कैपिटा इनकम है, व्यक्तिगत जो आय है, वो भारत से ज्यादा है. यानी दे आर मोर प्रॉस्परस देन इंडिया इन दैट सेंस. तो
देखिए ये जो why
the economic situation in Bangladesh,
ये जो why वो the growth has been restricted to a certain section. It has not percolated across. It has not percolated down to the last man. So there is extreme poverty. There is a huge population burden. And there is growing public anger. That is exactly what makes it such a fertile ground for the rise of the...
for a change, last final question, parting question. ये एक नई फिनोमिना है कि जिसमें विद्यार्थी काफी डिसिसिव फैक्टर बने हैं. तो क्या इसका क्या आउटकम, आप भविष्य के लिए क्या आउटकम देख सकते हैं?
देखिए almost all the social movements में हम यही देखते हैं कि youth has a very very interesting and very important role to play. Bangladesh has not been any different, and it always in all cases of Bengal's turbulence, it has always been the students who have.
No, वो temporary होता है. They don't become part of the ruling junta. यहाँ अलग है.
This time it has been, and this
part of the ruling coalition also.
Absolutely, because this time this was orchestrated. This time this has been.
एक दफा आपको सत्ता का स्वाद लग जाता है, उसके बाद बांग्लादेश के जो विद्यार्थी हैं, और मैं भी वहां से और इर्द गिर्द में कहीं फैले तो अलग बात है, नहीं फैलेगा, मैं मानता हूँ वहां तक, तो फिर वो आराम से फिर चले जाएंगे अपने अपने
कोई
विश्वविद्यालय
नहीं
में वापिस और पढ़ाई
जाए,
करेंगे।
कोई जाता तो नहीं है ना साहब, हटाए जाते हैं. हिस्ट्री क्लियर्स desks for itself, so it will.
ओके, तो आज की तारीख में a year down the road बांग्लादेश और भारत के संबंध आपको कैसे दिख रहे हैं?
I see Bangladesh walking down this fundamentalist road faster than it is doing now. We shall be screaming our hearts out from this side of the border without doing much. And the screaming match chalta rahega probably till
Unlike
2000.
Maldives, वो भी भारत से संबंध रखने के लिए आगे चल के फिर वापस नहीं आएंगे.
उन्हें आना तो पड़ेगा साहब. They will have to come. I mean, they don't really have much of a choice, provided we actually strengthen our stance a little bit, which of course I doubt. But yes, if that is done, they will. They will have to, because their economy is hugely dependent on India, and given the current situation, they cannot afford to keep India aside and go business as usual. It doesn't happen. It won't happen.
धन्यवाद भट्टाचार्य जी, काफी इंसाइट आपने अपने जो मुद्दे आपने रखे. हमारी तकलीफ क्या है कि नेबरिंग देश के लिए भी हमारे पास उतना ज्ञान नहीं होता. अगर आप देखें तो नेपाल के बारे में या भूटान के बारे में या लद्दाख के बारे में पूछा जाए किसी को तो देयर इज सम काइंड ऑफ ब्लैकआउट ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन. तो ये इस तरह की जो इंसाइट आपने चर्चा में आगे रखी, मैं मानता हूँ कि हमारे दर्शक मित्रों के लिए भी काफी इससे आई ओपनर होगी कि क्या चल रहा है, क्या हो सकता है, क्या होने वाला है. तो धन्यवाद तहे दिल से आपका, और मिलते रहेंगे आगे चलते भी. थैंक यू वेरी मच.
थैंक यू.
दर्शक मित्रों, आज से फिर हमारा ये कार्यक्रम दिवाली ब्रेक के बाद शुरू होता है. भट्टाचार्य साहब के साथ ये पहला कार्यक्रम था क्योंकि मैं इनको, हम गुजराती भाषा में जिसको बोलते हैं ना, शुकन्या रामनस मानता हूँ. तो हम अब रेगुलर आपसे मिलते रहेंगे, बातें करते रहेंगे. दिवाली तो चली गई, देव दिवाली भी चली गई, फिर भी अब आने वाला जो भी समय है विक्रम संवत 2081 का, वो आप सबको, आपके परिवार को बहुत शुभ और शांति देने वाला, शांति प्रदान करने वाला निकले, मेरी शुभकामनाएं. प्रश्न सिर्फ बांग्लादेश में ऐसा नहीं है, इससे भी ज्यादा बड़े प्रश्न इस देश में भी है और आगे चल के हो सकते हैं. अर्थव्यवस्था से जुड़े भी हो सकते हैं, किसान से जुड़े भी हो सकते हैं, मजदूर से जुड़े भी हो सकते हैं, और इलेक्शन कमीशन और वैधानिक संस्थाओं से जुड़े भी. तो बात करते रहेंगे हम आगे चल के क्या होता है. धन्यवाद.